Yeah,
One,
you're
two,
good.
three. Okay.
All right. So Brian Wong, I can't even keep track, Brian. It's
Mhm.
going so crazy. Only thing I know for sure is you won.
Yes, I won.
And I've been
And
talking,
everyone who listened to me won. And everyone who
everybody
listened to me
listen to you. I've been talking about you all week on the channel because,
won.
you're supposed to be the future guy anyway, but
Right.
not necessarily picking prices. But man,
Yeah.
you said on my channel, maybe on your channel as well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And you said 450 by the end of January, right?
Right.
And it
Right.
looks like we at least have a possibility getting to 450 by the end of December.
Right. Right.
And I mean, there isn't another soul. It's not like we have to actually hit 450 at this point because you are
Right.
so far different than
From
anybody.
everyone else.
Estimate.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So
Yep.
my prediction has always been that we would get to the all-time high by the end of January. uh,
Mhm.
unless there was a major, breakthrough story. And
Right.
right now, for my money, the breakthrough story, and I've had many people, many of my co-hosts have agreed with me. The breakthrough story was really the Bank of America note,
Hmm.
because that was Bank of America mentioning Optimus in the note.
Right.
And then that gave everybody else permission, gave all the other banks, all the other analysts permission to start talking about Optimus. And I think that is what catapulted the second half of the increase. What do you think?
So there's several big things. Obviously, the election and the close relationship between Trump and Elon, which is a as positive that is, the opposite, if the Democrats and Biden were still in control, is in the insane attacks and drag
Right.
on um, on Elon and on tech. So they were attacking tech, they're attacking AI, they were, really dragging that down. And so
We're hearing about
it
that from Andreessen and from Teal, and now
right,
even Elon is talking about it. I mean, he
right,
was in the center of it, but now you get Andreessen and Teal chiming, and Andreessen is an ex-Democrat, and he's
right,
talking about the way that they were being attacked.
right. So as strong as the company is, basically you had the US government stepping on Tesla's throat,
Right.
right? So it's a combination of I'm no longer stepping on your throat with this insane power, and now that's the equivalent of that power, maybe even more power of Trump and the United States government, pushing and lifting Tesla. So that lift is just insanely large. So we saw that on the day, you know, kind of leading up the election a bit, and then on the election day, as it happened, it popped.
Right.
So there was a lot there for that, and then and then it goes to the things going on with the company, which were suppressed. That people were knowing, oh yeah, Robotaxi, FSD is getting a lot better, but they couldn't let themselves buy in, and also mainly the institutions couldn't let themselves buy in because of this, um, the attacks,
Right.
the attacks. So I think that's a lot of the story. But then you had the FSD, the FSD 13
Right.
coming out, and that continues to move it up. And in the rearview mirror was the perfect third quarter. I wrote that was the perfect third quarter, in terms of volume, in terms of the earnings call, in terms of the guidance. That was the perfect third quarter, and but it went down after that
Yeah.
because of this negativity, that the attack and stuff like that they couldn't go into it yet, right? So that was kind of a delayed reaction, right? So you can't say the timing of it was, that. So delay reaction on that perfect call. Why I say perfect is it removed all doubt of the negative Tesla Q story. You
Right.
know, margins were coming back just shy of 20%, going back to over 20%. The, other cash flow generation, auto doing great, energy doing great. It was uh, things around FSD training, like all the questions. And I had a, article and video about it. I can't remember all the details about it, but basically everything that people were saying about Tesla Q, everything they were saying was bad,
Right.
was refuted. If not immediately, it was clearly on the path to none of that matters. So
Right.
all the negative stories were basically going away, right? And and then all the good stuff of the pent up good stuff that we've been waiting for 6, 8 years for FSD and Robotaxi, and it is clearly about to happen. And then also the conversion from just a car company to an AI company is also happening. So massive, massive narrative perceptions, the transformation of going from a caterpillar to a butterfly is happening over these 6 to 12 months.
Right.
So
So you had your estimate of 450 by the end of January. Now we're at this is
December 13th, mid-December.
if it is, no, but I was just going to look. We're now at 432
Oh, February 13th, yeah.
on Friday afternoon, just before close.
Hmm.
So we're only 18 points away from the number you had for the end of January.
Yeah.
So I've been saying for a couple of days now that I thought we would end up being in a range. My range
Hmm.
was 380 to 430. Well, we're already out of that range. We're already at
Right.
432, although I could, fudge with that number.
Yeah.
But I thought we might get range bound for a while, waiting for the next news story. So something
Hmm.
a little more significant. Maybe version 13.3 goes wide, and the,
Hmm.
the reporting is even more flowery than the reporting that we're getting from the insiders right now.
Right.
Maybe there's like we had the story today about Switzerland and China with
Hmm.
regard to ASS. Maybe we get more stories about Europe or UN or somebody else in terms of regulations. I mean, there's all kinds of possible stories that could give us that next bump
Right.
without getting to Optimus working in the factory or
Yeah.
FS being unsupervised. I'm
Right.
yeah, unsupervised. So, what are you thinking now? Have you
Hmm.
changed your price target now for the end of January,
Yeah.
or do you think we'll stay in a range of something like 450 to some lower number?
So I would say that it is if things continue to go uh, good, no super major news, then so that means the market's still staying good, the relationship with Trump staying good, all the things that are still good are still in place,
Mhm.
and then we don't necessarily get um, licensing or China registration things. Like, if those that stuff doesn't happen quite yet, through to
And
the end of January, right?
and then
But we just get
the numbers are okay,
a
like
number okay,
over
right?
500,000.
Right. Over 500K cars, over 20% margin, basically like the no surprises, but like we're having what we looks like we're going towards. That happens,
Okay.
right? Then I say we get to 500 to 600.
500 to
Uh,
600. Yeah. By the end
500
of
to 600
January. By the
by
end of
the end
January.
of January. By the end of January. Right. And so the difference between
I
500.
better get my leaps order in.
Yes, yes, yeah. So the difference between 500 and 600 is that, which is like 20%,
Right.
right? So the difference between 500 and 600 is um, how good the guidance on the January 22nd day is, right? So there's January 22nd is, how good is the guidance?
Mhm.
And then how good is the first 10 days, 11 days of the new presidency?
Right.
Because he gets in the 20th,
Right.
right? So then there's going to be all this stuff on the first day,
Oh, yeah.
a bunch of things happening. Yeah, yeah, all kinds of things being written. So it's going to be a really active time,
Right.
right? So there's active stuff in the macro,
Mhm.
and then there is how happy is the talk on that? And that's all it takes. Right now is if they say, and we're going to guide to something better than we were guiding to in Q3, Q4 ends, we have all this energy stuff. So if they say good things, irregardless of, only pretty good performance in Q4,
Right.
right? If they say it's sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns, out in 2025 and 2026, then that's what it takes. It's not necessarily the numbers. The numbers get us to 500.
Right.
The overall market going up 5-10%, that can get us to 500 too. Just like Tom Lee says, okay, we're going up another 7%. First half of the year is going to be great. Tom Lee, Fundstrat, one of the other big investors, analysts, saying that the first half of the year he sees as wonderful. That S&P 500 is going to go to 7,000, which is a 20% move on that.
Right.
For people who don't know, the Tesla shares are more higher beta, more volatility.
Right.
So if things stay static, but the S&P 500 goes to 7,000, a 20% move, you expect a 40% move.
From Tesla.
All other things being roughly equal
Right.
on the Tesla story,
Right.
right? So then that a 40% move from here would be, let's see, let's say it's 450, adding on 40%, that would be 180. So getting to 630 by the middle of the year just on momentum, right?
Just
So
just on macro.
just a macro, right? The overall market run
Right.
continues to that level,
Right.
right? Then you're trading everything else and you're saying, okay, yeah, this needs to go to there, right? Which is something that some stock financial analysts would be um, reluctant to say that, just carrying it up. But it's like in a rising bull market, you can get this kind of movement. But bigger than that is in the alpha part of it, which is, the company itself,
Mhm.
is if they say really good things on that January 22nd day, um, and then other announcements could occur, so we can discuss the other move the needle announcements and what that means.
Right. So theoretically, I would say that on the 22nd of January, he will either confirm his 20 to 30% increase for the year in terms of unit sales, or he will say something new. Maybe he'll say it's the 30% is more likely, or maybe he'll increase it to 35%. Or I mean, for me, it's like if we've talked about this before, if FSD becomes unsupervised, they'll sell every car they can possibly make. I don't see how they sell
Right.
any fewer than they can possibly make in that circumstance. He could also give us some an update on. I'm sure they'll give us an update on Megafactory Shanghai, and if that is in production and they have some numbers coming out already, that could, I think, be a stimulus. As much as I'd like it to be a stimulus, if they give us some update on semi trucks in terms of the factory starting in March or starting in February, whatever it is, because it looks like it's done. It looks like they're,
Yeah.
almost ready to start. If that ramp is changed in any way, shape, or form to where we actually have some numbers that will be produced in 2025 instead of 40,000 in 2026, I'd like to see that move the market. I have a feeling it won't.
Mhm.
I don't
Right.
know what you think. But then it comes down to, Robotaxi is Optimus.
Yeah.
That's what would really move the market is if there was any announcement. Now, would you anticipate any announcement at all other than maybe an FSD, like some more color around what's going to happen next with FSD, like 14 will come out or we're down to just a few final pieces.
I would say the technical stuff that you and I and some of the other close Tesla watchers would see, that would matter for us. But for the overall market and the general public and the analysts and that kind of thing, it has to be simpler. So the simpler thing in regards to um, China approving FSD,
Right.
which seems close based on the what we saw last night in terms of the uh,
ASSB.
yeah, actual smart summon being available. And in that announcement, for people who don't know, is a little graphic saying this is available in enhanced autopilot and available in full self-driving. So the full self-driving, this is, Chinese characters, all that language saying that in China to the Chinese market, saying, hey, FSD is going to be here soon, and you'll use it and you'll use smart summon with that, right? So those kind of clear easy to understand kind of thing, like, a licensing deal, you're getting into a country, the market is bigger.
Oh, the licensing deal has got to
Right,
be 50 to 100 points by itself, right? If they're,
right, right, right. I think that's a huge thing. So basically then, if the big shoes drop, so we're waiting for so many. It's like,
right,
it's like Imelda Marcos, for people don't know who know the time thing. She was the wife of the Philippine president in the 1980s
oh,
or
yes,
90s,
that's
whatever.
right. That's
She had all these shoes,
right.
right? She had all these shoes. So then she was famous for a shoe collection of like 100,000 shoes or something crazy. So I'm saying that all these shoes ready to drop, major, major things that
Major.
each one that falls is this massive earthquake. So having one of those major things happen solidifies the gains that we've had and moves us up to 500, 600, and to send us back down would require a lot of really bad financial news. Just like when we, got to 2, 3 years ago when we got to profitability,
Mhm.
and we have Model 3 and then Model Y. you we went up to 400 and then we went down to 100, right? So it really came back down, but it took like 2 years of really, really negative news, unable to get new performance out of it. So you had this long time, the overall macro market was terrible, and recessions everywhere, all that kind of stuff. That beat us back down to 100, right? And that 100 was a meltdown that was overdone,
Right.
right?
Big time.
So we're in a melt up right now, right? So a melt up will go beyond. So right now people want to say, okay, it can't go beyond 600, or they don't want to call beyond these high numbers because they're saying they want to look at what is fully justifiable.
Right.
Even if things kind of turn on the macro, this is fully justifiable that it would hold that. And so they're looking at justification to get it. But in the melt up situation, you will overshoot.
Right.
But you can overshoot not just one day, 1 week. You can overshoot for 6 months, a year, longer than anyone can stay solvent, as they say, right? If you were shorting it, it
Yeah.
would go overshoot, and then, you know, and the fact that people say, well, some of these things don't make sense or like that, it's like it gets ahead of itself.
Right.
But if you have new major things happening every month or two, the fact that I got ahead of myself, I can catch up to it,
Right.
and then I'm fine. It never drops down, right? So,
Yeah, so
um,
I said last week, and I haven't had anybody argue with me, but maybe you will, that
mhm,
right now the underlying factory capability, energy, cars, et cetera, even semis, the stuff that is coming, but the stuff that is all hardware related is probably worth $250 a share. And
mhm,
all the rest is sentiment. And that I
mhm,
could probably argue for the stock being, if it was at $800 today, I could
mhm,
justify it
right,
based on sentiment, based on optionality, based on the
right,
things that are coming.
right,
And so I think a little bit of what I'm hearing you say is it can be 500 by the end of January now, or it can be
right.
600 by the end of
Yeah,
January, because it's really all about those, those spirits right now,
right,
what
right.
people think is going to happen in the future, and that is getting more and more certain,
Yeah,
and more people that are buying in. Is that kind of
right.
what you think?
Yeah, that goes to that situation because the PE situation is,
Off the table.
I'm treating it as electronics company. So car company, like 7 to 10 PE, 15 PE max, and then electronics company, like an Apple selling iPhones kind of thing. You're at, maybe 40 PE or something like that, 50 PE. And then you go to an AI SaaS company, software as a service type company, and then you can justify 100 PE or something like that. So just changing the perception of what kind of company are you,
Mhm.
you can get a, 2, 3x,
Right.
right? So you go from 300 up to 900 just on that. And then the fact that you're a bit higher is that the belief, the certainty that Tesla is the best AI company, not
Mhm.
just a AI company, but the best AI company,
Right.
even though the earnings haven't all come in yet. Well, like for any AI company, Who's got earnings? Other than Nvidia, OpenAI doesn't have earnings. OpenAI is worth $150 billion, $200 billion, right? So nothing else in AI has earnings. So, but Tesla has $1 billion, over $1 billion a year, like 340 million on full self-driving, probably not including autopilot last quarter,
Right,
Q3, right?
right,
And that's growing. And then if you have the other TAMs, that can go up like 6 times. You can easily get to $2 billion a quarter very rapidly in 2025. And so then $8 billion of SaaS revenue, right, in 2025 from AI.
right.
So then you slap a multiple of, I don't know, 1,000 or whatever it is. It's got 90% margin, something like that, right? So, at that piece of the business fully recognized at like 200 PE times $8 billion, 200 billion, what is it? That's 1.6 trillion, right?
Which is what Dan Ives said just the other day.
Right, right,
But then he had to raise it.
right.
He's like, oh, well, I think it's worth 1.6 trillion now. Oh, well, wait a minute. I think the
No,
AI,
but that was with not that's only that FSD AI part of the business, not including
right?
the cars and the energy and stuff like that. And the cars and energy, I think, is more than 250. I think fully realized in terms of like what's the hardware in place, if they ramp up all the lines,
Uh-huh.
right? So that going to 3.5 million cars and getting to the several lines ramped up, the new Shanghai factory on energy, that getting up to speed could triple net income. And then once they say, okay, and we'll obviously making new factories, I announced the new factories, that can be a $2 trillion, $2.5 trillion company. So that would justify um, $600 or $800 on that, right? So that part of the business, as it matures, even without the AI in a separate business, combine them together, you're looking at a $3 trillion company, right? And or a $4 trillion company, which would be what would be the share price at that point? So 4 trillion, $5 trillion on all those things. Let's say
Well,
5 trillion. That would be the at 1 trillion is 300. So that'd be like 1,500 on the share price, right? Yeah.
yeah. So, all right. So let's just go through it, and then what I promised all my people that they would see tonight is I want you to
Mhm.
talk about the technical side because I don't follow the. I look at the technical analysts from time to time. I'll watch a video for 5 minutes, and oh, that's what he thinks. But you know this, you follow a lot of them, and I want to know what you think there. But okay, so roughly speaking, what we're looking at is barring any major news, you still
Mhm.
believe we could be at 500, any major new news,
Mhm.
just a good, solid earnings, decent numbers coming in on the second, and no really shocking news in either direction. You believe we could be at 500 to 600 by January 31st.
Right.
Okay. Then you believe that as the year progresses, if we do get any kind of solid news on Robotaxi to where it's unsupervised, some licensing agreements, any of the kinds of things that we think might happen in 2025. The stock could be at least 1,000,
Right. 1,000 to 1,500,
1,000 to
and
50.
then it could overshoot to 2,000.
It could
Right.
overshoot to 2,000.
Yeah.
And then what happens if we do a fly through the factory showing over 1,000 Optimi working in the factory doing 350, 500 different tasks?
Um, 2,500 to 3,000.
2,500 to 3,000. We should write all these down.
Yeah, I will.
Well, they're now on video and you can never deny them. But anyway,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah,
here you go.
yeah,
I mean, let's face it. I said it's incomprehensible.
yeah,
I cannot come up with a number that
yeah,
if we do a fly through the factory, because they're
yeah.
talking about 1,000 to 3,000 Optimi working this summer in the
Mhm.
factory. They're not going to be doing one job.
Yeah,
You're going to have to do hundreds of jobs in order
right.
to justify all those optimi.
Yeah,
So if you do a fly through and one's soldering and one's welding and one's screwing things in and another's putting tires on rims, I mean rims, well, putting the tires on vehicle, anyway, whatever they're doing, and you have them doing a bunch of different tasks and doing them
yeah.
at human speed, I don't know what the stock could go to.
So the thing is, it's the overall wave of execution technology. So
Right.
that is the tip of the spear, the most obvious, like, holy crap kind of thing. It's like SpaceX, landing two boosters together or catching, a booster. It's like I'm seeing it, but it took insane amount of technology. I did do the Raptor engines. I got to make the launch tower. It's a lot of stuff happening to get to that point where you're seeing the thing that you're seeing, right? But so it's the iceberg underneath that is like all the technology, all the things they're doing to get to that point, right? And also it's the momentum and inevitability of it. Like, for SpaceX, it's 120 launches and landings, this year, 140 this year, 100 last year, which is like launching 10 times more payload to orbit than the entire world.
Combined. Yes.
Rest of the world, China, all the other American companies, Russia, Europe, everyone,
Yes.
10 times more than everyone. So this, and then the fact that they do the Starship landing and catch means that they're going to go up 100 times.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm already at 90%. I'm going to go to 99.9% of everything, and the whole pie is going to get 100, 1,000 times bigger, and I'm just totally changing the world, right? So on the Tesla side of things is, that they, the showing that capability of this the 1,000 bots thing, the pieces that are leading up to that, the other parts of the iceberg underneath is the Grok XAI releasing Grok 3, a
Right.
model that is like 30 times the training of GPT-4 in January, February of next year. And then another model um, in each of the quarters, like April, July, September, December. Each model will be 6 to 10 times the training of the prior model.
Right.
So it's like if they're already getting one that's bigger and the things are still scaling, right? Then their AI is 20 times better than anyone else's, right? Because, and we can go into, I have other videos which go
Yeah,
into,
we've talked about this one
yeah,
before. Yeah.
right. But those pieces are going in there, and the data center getting bigger, FSD is getting bigger. So the AI technology is getting to the point, it's just like NVIDIA, it's like, okay, I've released A100, at least H100 chips, H200, B200 chips, and I'm leaving all the other competition in the dust, right? And I'm at, 98% or whatever of the market. That's the same kind of thing. It's like Tesla would be doing the same thing on the AI side with all the different pieces of the the Grok chips, the data centers, the Dojo 2 chip, all these things, the AI 5 chip, so that all this other stuff is happening, in terms of the huge range of AI products
Right.
and capability that would be this wave of AI. So just like there's a wave of cars, okay, we got the Model 3, the Model Y, we're gonna get the cheaper car, the Cybertruck and the semi. Because we're no longer a car company, it's the wave of AI capability. And
Right.
again, the tip of the spear is TeslaBot. But it's like TeslaBot needs the chips, the AI, everything else.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and so then as the AI story becomes a thing, right? Yes, the most obvious thing is seeing, you know, bots juggling and building cars and doing stuff like that. But then leading up to that fact is the reason everyone believes, all the analysts say, I believe and I'm putting money down behind it. Just like Brad Gerstner put the $1 billion of his $10 billion fund into it, right? And the others put more money into it is because they see they are the AI winners. They
Right.
have not just this, but like everything up leading up to that. All the chips, all the data centers that are 100 times better than anyone else's, right? They're like utterly crushing it. Their technological dominance, their business plan, their business models is just insanely good. So that becomes your full AI story. It's
Right.
like you just not won cars and transportation. You win all of AI, and Tesla is a major part of it. XA is a major part of it, but to everyone else, it's just like
It's Elon.
um, it's all Elon. company tech, and then so we'll be watching that, and then how that affects the share price we'll have in our next video on my channel to discuss from the middle of the year becoming full AI. What does that mean?
What does that mean for 26 and beyond? Yes.
2026 and beyond, and what does that mean for the stock price and beyond? Right.
So we're going to do that separately, and that'll be on your channel. But before
Right.
we switch to that, we
Yeah.
need to
Yes.
come back to, and we need to give my promise and
Yeah.
talk to me about the technical. So
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of these technical analysts that are talking about, on the same levels that you are talking about 800 later in the year,
Yeah.
just on the technicals. They're saying, whatever to the fundamentals, I'm sure
Mhm.
the fundamental those will take care of themselves. But
Right.
if we broke through all of these different levels, the ones that
Right.
I pay attention to, like the round number level and the
Mhm.
all-time high level, I mean, those are things that everybody I think pays attention to, which are
Right.
kind of technical signals.
Right.
But if we break through those, then
Mhm.
there's no stopping point until like 800 or something like that. Tell me
Yeah.
what you.
So they talk about Fibonacci's, which is they draw these things and points and stuff like that, and so it's general gap zones, which is like as I shoot up to all new highs, I there's some general breakpoints that occur, and they use Fibonacci to project it. So we broke through 414. So then the next level based on a Fibonacci um, would be 480 to 520,
Okay,
right? So you're heading up to 45. There might have been someone else who said, something at like 450, right? So you kind of have that, but basically you could easily push up to those two levels. And then beyond that, you go to like probably 650, right? Because the levels, I think, tend to be about like 20, 30% apart,
I see.
right?
Okay.
Yeah. So it would kind of like keep pushing on through that. It's not like you have these, like I'm going from 400 and each major level is like 20 to $40 apart, which is like 5 to 10%, right? It goes to these bigger things. Um, and then yeah, so um when I say goes to 500, 600, those are really like only like two Fibonacci's, right? So it's like I punch through one level, I punch through the next,
I see.
there's like 500, 600, right?
Yeah,
And then go up to 800 after that, right? So it's just like it gets bigger as, you know, so you have a stock split or whatever, or a stock, yeah, a stock split, something like that, where you say, okay, go from just like um, Nvidia, had a stock split where they went 10 to 1, where it's like, okay, I'm shooting up, I'm at 1200, I go 10 to 1, then go back to 120. And because so then the moves are like, do we go from 120 to 1400, which would have been like 1200 to 1500, something like that. This is or yeah, 12 based on the size of the thing, because it's percentage wise. So then the things keep getting bigger and bigger. The what we thought was the movement just becomes part of this bigger movement. Anyway, um, so then most of the technical analysts, they do not do um, much beyond the next level. They only tunnel vision short
I see.
movements,
I see.
right? So they say, okay, do we drop down to these levels and go up two levels? At most, they talk about like two what was it 3 sigma or something like that. Like a movement of you know basically like equivalent of a double, right? So we go from here up to like that 1,000 level. But most would just talk about, do we get to 480 to 520, and then is there any price action there that indicates it would slow down, it would start to go sideways for a little bit, and then it could either just keep going or it could then fall off, right? So that's the technical movement is all just about higher highs or lower lows, and the momentum indicators around that to see where that's happening. So right now, all the momentum is going for us. Um, the pause, like this morning, I was when we went briefly down, we went up to 431, and then we dropped down to
Like 470.
416, 419, right? So on a technical basis, I knew that didn't mean anything, right? In terms of like actually stopping out, because we didn't break through 414,
Yeah.
right? We didn't like really test and push. We were like a modest test, which was actually a good thing technically to create support,
Mhm.
right? So we're turning that what was a ceiling into a floor, right? And then we started doing this movement up where we pushed up to 426, something like that, and then down to 422, and then up again. But that was a higher low.
Right.
416 up to 420. It showed continued strength. And then the previous day also we didn't freak out and panic. Everyone's saying, "Oh, we're gonna crash," right? But it's like, okay, we went from a high of 429, and then we went down as low as I don't know, 414, 412. Again, a retest of roughly the
Right.
old all-time high. We
Right.
didn't like fall down to 400. We could easily just fall down to 400 or even 380, a previous level, and
Mhm.
then come back up. But the fact that we did not even push down below all-time highs meant a lot of buying strength, right? So it was a tug of war with buyers and sellers. So the buyers were stepping in, buying the dip,
Right.
right? Which, if people think back 3 years, it was all buy the dip, buy the dip. That was the strategy to do. So we're now in the buy the dip strategy phase where it's
Right.
like every time you buy a strategy, you're a freaking genius. Oh,
Yes.
I did not get shaken out. I bought the dip, right?
Yes. Yes.
And that basically were the early phases of
That.
buy the dip always works. So basically
Right.
for the last, 2 months, buy the dip, you're a genius
L.
on
Right.
Tesla, right?
Yeah. Which
Right.
is what I'm planning to do. I,
Right.
but 416 would have just got me back in where I got out. I want to do
Yeah.
better. I want to get back,
Right.
I want to get in at 402. That's where I want to get.
Right.
Anyway, all right. So that is going forward, then that would be your expectation. There will be some moves up. There will be some, like we've seen the last 2 days, big swings down.
Right.
It's an options player's paradise
Right.
with big swings like this.
Right.
We watch what's his name, Squawk.
Yeah.
He does this every day with real money,
Right.
and he's like,
Yeah. But in terms of that was just like a minor dip. Like, oh, we dropped 20
right,
points. So many points. But it's like it's a minor dip relative percentage wise.
right,
Pulling back, like 10%, that's a correction,
right,
right?
right,
So because the definition, 20% is 25% is whatever. So having really big moves down, again, that you haven't broken the upward structure,
right,
right?
right,
So if I haven't had break of structure, which is the technical guys talk about, where I really fell out of the big
right,
channel,
right,
right? Then it's still all good. It's just like I'm gonna hit the bottom of the channel and I'm gonna go back up again. So you can use that technical analysis. The guys I follow, there's a Pete DiCarlo, Traders Helping Traders. There's Tesla Guy and Daily Trader. They talk about those two follow the short-term moves. In terms of the better long-term movement things, like I said, trade helping traders and traveling trader are guys that are pretty good, but they're not. Traveling trader doesn't do Tesla stuff all the time.
mhm,
He does that occasionally. He has basically a big buy and then follow it up. And for some of these guys who like don't try and like pick every squiggle,
right,
we're looking at every
right,
squiggle, then it's basically we're in an upward move until we're not.
right.
So basically, you keep moving up your trailing stop to say, I don't want to, get
This number now.
I want to lose my gains, so I put a trailing stop behind it. I keep moving that up,
Right.
some certain level behind it.
Mhm.
The issues with putting a trailing stop behind your stock, though, in this move where things are going really up and whatever, if you're playing small ball and the market makers know where all the trailing stops are. So they'll say,
Take that
I'm a
guy.
big fund. I'm gonna come in, sell $1 billion, knock all you guys out. All your stock comes out. I shook your pockets. You gave me all your stock, and now I flip it around and then I drive it back up again, right? But oh, that's market manipulation. Yes, they market manipulate to shake out those moves because everyone knows that's a standard play,
Right.
right? So they're gonna say, I'm gonna scoop up all your stock because I want your stock. You're doing these things to make 5, 10%. Good for you. I'm gonna make 100%. I'm gonna make 200%, right? So if we're right about the big fundamental um, world-changing things are happening over the next 6 to 12 months or 2 years, right? Then you don't want to be playing, small ball. If I'm correct, don't play small ball. You're going for home runs, going for grand slams, and this is what's happening here. And so the thing is to buy the dip, right? Buy the dip. If you
And
want to generate
or,
cash, yeah,
and or you're already in it, just keep holding.
yeah, keep holding.
And last
Right.
night I redid my leaps video. So for
Mhm.
people that want to take a look at that, I gave you my 14 or 16, I forget how many there are rules that I go by. Uh,
Mhm.
Now that's a little bit of small ball because quite frankly, on any given day, I was perfectly happy to take a $500 gain.
Right.
Wouldn't you?
Right.
And
And again, not
sometimes
financial advice.
it's not financial. Sometimes I would take that $500 gain, and an hour later I'd be back in the stock at a new low. I mean,
Right.
a dip.
Right.
So, that's the kind of stuff we talked about on the program about leaps. Brian is a great believer in leaps as well, but that is not financial advice, and it's it's probably the simplest, in my opinion, of all the things I've ever seen with regard to outside just owning the stock. It's probably the simplest thing to understand. And if you have amazing conviction like we do right now for Tesla, I think it just totally is the sensible thing to do because you can four times your you can you can leverage yourself about four times compared to what you get out of the stock itself.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
Just agreeing with me. There you go.
That's
Hey.
right. Think they're good. Think they're good.
All right. All right. So
Yeah.
I think what I want to leave with here, most of you who follow my channel, most of you follow Brian's channel, and you should all follow Brian everywhere he is, nextbigfuture.com, as well as Next Big Future, the video channel, and on X. Um, we are honestly in an historic situation. This is
Mhm.
not, this is not hype. There are guys that are way smarter. Well, there's not enough smarter than Brian, but there's guys that are way smarter than me. Brian smiles. Anyway,
Mhm.
but I'm talking about the Andreessens and the Friedbergs I mean, all these guys, they are all recognizing that this is an historic moment in terms of a company and the future potential. And Robotaxi would be historic all by itself on the level of an NVIDIA, maybe bigger than an NVIDIA move because of the TAM, because it's a consumer product, because it just goes on and on.
Mhm.
So it's probably bigger than NVIDIA all by itself. And then Optimus is, according to Elon, four times bigger than the
Robotaxi.
Robotaxi. So it's a historic moment. It's a great time if you're fully invested. Great. This is not investment advice. I would not sell my house. I'm not going to sell. I have three houses. I'm not selling any of them. I'm just trying to really have some fun and make a decent amount of money off of this wonderful, fun time that we're having with Tesla. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a historic thing. Just having some exposure to it, you'll be doing fantastic. And if not, then you'll still benefit from the fact that this is going to change the world. It's really that big.
Yes. All right. Well, Brian, I'll remind people again that we're going to do a video that will be on your channel. This one, it's Friday night. Or when are you planning to have yours?
I'll put it up maybe Saturday. Yeah.
Well, Saturday. Okay. So, and part two, we'll go into the longer term look. What's going to happen, not in 2025, but what about 2026, 2027, and beyond in terms of stock price, in terms of dollars, in terms of earnings? All right. We'll talk about all that tomorrow, Brian. Thank you so much for coming
Thank
on.
you.
And for all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.